Terry, where do you put the odds that Sarah Bloom Raskin will indeed ultimately somewhere down the line get confirmed?
Good morning, Kailey. I've got Bloom Raskin at about 40%, and same with Cook. I'm on the record as saying that I think that uh, Chair Powell and the new Vice Chair Brainerd are about 70% likely. I also see Mr. Jefferson as likely. But what you've got here is a situation where I think largely of the White House and Senate Democrats doing, where, as you point out, they've linked all five together. And if you're going to do that, then you're hostage to the weakest link. And right now, Bloom Raskin's in pole position for weakest link, but I think Cook is not looking particularly well either. So this is not, and this is not small stuff. I'll say. The senior Republican on the banking committee, Senator Toomey, says that there are 36 questions for the record in which Ms. Bloom Raskin claims she either did not recall or was unaware of things, and also criticized pretty much every interaction she's had with the Republicans on the committee. This is not a small thing that's going to get papered over easily. So I think markets need to understand that this standoff will happen, will continue for quite a while.
Terry, let's just dig in a little bit more in terms of what the problem is here. I struggle to believe that this is about a fintech company.
It's of two levels, Guy. I don't struggle to believe that it's about a fintech company when you've got the circumstances around that that there are, firstly, and secondly, when Ms. Bloom Raskin says she doesn't recall the interaction with the Federal Reserve. That strains some credulity in the eyes of a lot of people, including the Wall Street Journal editorial page, which has been hammering this for a while. But there are larger problems here, ranging from looking like you're the proxy for a lot of Green New Deal work to concerns about ESG, all kinds of concerns that the Fed might be going beyond its mandate by approving some of these people. That's not a small thing in the Senate, because remember, the Fed exercises congressional power, and the Senate the Congress sets the Fed's mandate, in this case, the dual mandate, which exists by law. So the idea that they'd be potentially appointing a bunch of people that are prepared to go beyond that and stretch that is of deeper concern than I think most people understand.
Well, talking of the Fed and the monetary policy reaction function to higher inflation, the Biden administration has continually said, we trust the Fed to fix it. The Fed is going to do its job. Obviously, the composition of the Fed now in question. But when we think about the political issue of inflation, how much is that dogging not just the Biden administration, but congressional Democrats as they face the midterms coming up in the not so distant future, Terry? I mean, is this issue number one when it comes to voters heading to the polls?
Well, this issue is number one for the voters when it to the polls. You're quite right, Kailey. And it's an interesting push-off by the Biden folks. On the one hand, they want to say that inflation is really being handled by the Fed, and they'd like to put people in the Fed to handle it. But by all appearances, the Fed would not handle it with those new people in a particularly strong sort of way. So that's one kind of disconnect. The second disconnect, as you identify, is that congressional folks need something to talk about and need to be seen and need to be actually doing things. Excuse me. So what needs to happen here ultimately is they need to be showing some action. With a few months left before the midterms, they're really not going to be able to do it. So now you've got people flailing around on issues like moratorium on the gas tax. Something that's supposed to fund the infrastructure spend to show you how much help fund it, which shows you just how desperate a lot of people are getting to show real action and real sympathy with normal folks on the ground.
Terry, the president tried to link higher gas prices, higher energy prices with the situation in Ukraine. A, is that credible? Is that something that works with the American people from a policy point of view? And does this give him potentially an exit route from the challenge, i.e., people are going to see higher gas prices, but he's going to say, hey, this is on Russia?
Yeah, I don't find it particularly credible. There's a long litany now of, and I think the more that an average citizen delves into it, I think the less credible they would find it. The it doesn't pass the smell test in part because the average person thinks of all that as very far away. The more knowledgeable person would understand that the United States, is a net exporter now. So the idea of higher prices resulting from a commodity that we've got at home in sufficient levels is something that's not going to be understood and also not going to resonate. The White House. I've long thought the White House continually looks like it's behind the curve, reactive, which is never good. And a lot of the policy response tends to be that old childhood rhyme about it's here or there, the man behind the tree,
Right.
Everybody else but me. And I don't think that's going to fly. In fact, I think it's probably going to make their political problems more entrenched and more intractable.
Well, let's talk about the foreign policy response. We understand the headline just crossing that President Biden will be speaking with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz later today, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. How would you grade this U.S. president in his handling of the Ukraine crisis so far? Has he succeeded in bringing America back to front and center, leading the West in terms of geopolicy?
I think the president has a very difficult hand. And it's one that he was not dealt, but in fact has long preceded him. Certainly going back to the administration in which he was the vice president. When you've got a bunch of recalcitrant and scattered European allies, you can do your best to try to herd this particular cats, but they're not going to be herded. And Germany has, whatever we all think of Germany's energy decisions. Germany has long felt, for a century or more, has long felt itself in the middle between Western Europe and Russia to a great extent, and acts and reacts accordingly to that. And so he's got a very difficult, our president, has a very difficult job trying to keep European allies together, united, and effective when what you've got here on the other side is largely the Russian president who's interested in rope-a-doping and maximizing those strains as much as possible, number one. And number two, really seeks an expansion of a sphere of influence that the West assumed it would have and would not be, and is not really wanting to give up.